continue this series, Aspects of Love, and we're looking at your book, Unconditional Love Is, Appreciating Aspects of Life. The quality of gratitude comes to mind as something which perhaps we all have a reasonable understanding of, and it's a very nice feeling to have. The sort of feeling of thankfulness it's a very nice feeling to carry with you. I mean, to be thankful for your good health, to be thankful for all sorts of things is a very nice feeling to have. What I'd like to do is to read what you've written about this. You've written it in 3 paragraphs. Let's pick up something from what you've written and go into it a bit more deeply. There is enormous power associated with gratitude. When we are grateful for the many things around us and the experiences we are entertaining in the moment, we expand the good in our lives. This conscious effort to notice every part of our reality helps us see our connection to all life. From the simple and mundane to the trying, challenging and thrilling experiences, it is essential to gratefully acknowledge each for their expression. Everything and everyone in our path are there to help us become more of our potential. That is their gift. Be open to each moment and appreciate life. Unconditional love is gratitude. Every particle of this physical reality shares itself with us for our enjoyment and growth. Gratitude is our opportunity to acknowledge and enjoy the experience. Nice description. And I think that the thing that immediately comes to my mind is what you're saying about when we're grateful for the many things around us, and the conscious effort to notice every part of our reality. I mean, perhaps this is something that many of us are not doing as much as we could be doing, and we might benefit an awful lot by being more aware, more grateful for what we have in our lives. So tell me more.
Well, gratitude and appreciation are both ways for us to look at life with a more open heart. And really the place, we keep coming back to is the present moment, that we are here in this moment. This is the place where we've been talking about that we're physical, emotional, mental, and spiritually all one. In other words, this is the moment where we can make choices differently. And as we've also talked about, our thoughts and our feelings are the places where we can take action and make choices differently than the previous moment. So we actually are quite powerful individuals in the sense that we can choose differently. That's one of the wonderful attributes we have, is if we have, a limiting thought, we can change the limiting thought. If we feel lack, we can feel gratitude. So we have the ability to change our reality in this present moment. And it becomes clear why this is potent and important for us when we understand that our thoughts and feelings create our reality. What we're entertaining in this present moment, whether we're conscious of it or not, is creating more of that same thing. Thoughts and feelings beget the physical reality. The houses we live in, for example, before they were a house, before they were lumber and material, before they were a blueprint, they were an idea. They were a thought and a feeling. Somebody had the idea to build a house, and then they had the feeling, the courage, the determination, the willingness to do everything it took to bring all those resources together to create the house. So thoughts and feelings creating our reality, then we begin to understand that we are having thoughts and feelings that are not of gratitude and appreciation, then we're going to create more of what we don't want. In the sense that most of us really resist those challenging times. And yet, when we get into those challenging times, because we kind of create them from, misguided perspectives, misunderstandings, or we don't consciously choose a different way of looking at life, we tend to get more immersed in challenging times and think somehow that those are, something outside of ourselves and not worthy of gratitude and appreciation, that, somehow that we're always at odds with life, when in fact the choice is ours. What a different world when we begin to say, I appreciate who I am, I accept myself for who I am, I accept the world around me, and I appreciate the world around me. I'm simply grateful for life. And I love this particular one, gratitude. We get so caught up in our thoughts and feelings, we get so caught up in our mental machinations and our wild emotional reactions that we tend to forget the most obvious things that are going on right here and right now. Like, as we sit here and talk, there are trillions of cells doing untold trillions of chemical, physiological actions and reactions, growing, duplicating, dying off, fluffing off, digesting, allowing us to speak. I mean, just extraordinary, miraculous experience going on right in our physical body. And then because we have a physical body, we have the ability to have the conveyance to say, speak and utter words that are somehow cognizant to each other in this particular instance, and yet will be hopefully cognizant to, countless others that will watch this at some point. We take our head and gaze up into the stars and the heavens. We know there are billions of galaxies with billions and trillions of stars and planets and suns and all of this amazing stuff going on. Mm-hmm. I mean, more than enough to spend lifetimes being grateful just for the miracle of life itself. And yet we sit here in the mundane thinking about, well, this happened this way, and that person's doing this to me, and this, and all these ideas that something isn't beautiful, something isn't graceful, something isn't perfect just the way it is. Mm-hmm. Gratitude is another one of those wonderful places to begin to love unconditionally, because gratitude is something we do understand and have perhaps more readily available experiences to tap into, to encourage ourselves. We can be grateful for, some of us obviously are grateful for being alive right here and right now, having health and whatnot. But certainly, we've materially manifested things in our lives. We've had experiences, we've had relationships, we've had things come into our lives where we are very grateful for the many types of presents that life can present. We can look at nature and be very grateful for nature. We can be, look at the plate of food before us and be very grateful for those things. So gratitude is something that we do tend to already cultivate more, where we tend to not really understand gratitude and the immense power associated to the immense beauty associated to it, is to be grateful under all circumstances. To take this gratitude into all of our experiences, including ourselves, being grateful for being alive just for who we are, being that accepting of who we are, the size, shape, weight, color, look, whatever, whoever we think we are, the wisdom we think we have or lack we have, just simply embracing all of that is being grateful for being alive, for being who we are, just because. And when we do that, and then we look around and we look at various other types of experiences, and we start to bring gratitude into those experiences, then these so-called challenging times, we can have tremendous gratitude for them too, which is contrary to the way most of us have been trained to look at life. We tend to externalize, and we tend to react, and we tend to, again, back to those notions we've talked about, polarity, duality, right, wrong, good, bad. Gratitude is a state that says it just is. And we can look back in our own lives and say some of the more difficult, challenging times in our lives have actually brought about greater awareness, the greater understanding, the deeper knowing of ourselves. We found strength and courage that we didn't think or knew we had. So we can look in our own lives and say, wow, with gratitude and appreciation, I can actually appreciate the many challenging times right alongside the many wonderful times. And essentially not see them as lesser or greater, just simply being grateful. And in this sense, gratitude is the sense of unconditional gratitude. Gratitude for the sake of gratitude and for no other reason. And I know in my personal life, I have journeyed through some difficult times of my own life, and then been around people who have often been contending with extraordinarily difficult, challenging times, and where they had no sense of gratitude, they had no sense of peace, they had no sense, it was all being done to them. And I'm sure I was that way, in certain steps of my life too. That when you introduce this notion of gratitude and allow it to expand, there's its own version of a healing that goes on, because there's a release from being resistant and recalcitrant and being against something, to embracing it and allowing it to literally transform. And some of the things that I've been privy to, I worked with a group of female ex-prisoners coming out of prison, literally, and over a couple of years I was able to interact with them on a weekly basis, and I found such an extraordinary awareness came to light with me, is that what we have typically, culturally, we don't condone actions and certain experiences, and we tend to, collectively judge and assume and, attach ourselves to belief systems of lesser and greater and good and bad and, all these different judgments, literal, separations. I found getting to know the individual ladies over the course of these couple of years, that in their most challenging moments, the challenging moments oftentimes, far worse than their actual being incarcerated, their challenging moments were many and close together, and and led up to incarceration, led up to post-incarceration where they're actually free. And yet, in so many of the instances, the ladies found a level of gratitude for, having been incarcerated, because it gave them time out to really self-reflect, and through this process that we were engaged with, they got to further reflect deeply on just how lovable they are. And from my perspective, watching their stories, observing their stories, observing their own evolution, I was like, wow, they had such extraordinary growth. They found parts of themselves that I wouldn't dare go to. At times, they did things in their lives and overcame things in their lives that I wouldn't even begin to think to do. And yet here was, a whole group of women, and this is just one, experience out of countless, where these women were overcoming their own lower natures, their own lack and limitations, their own belief systems, and expanding their consciousness literally to embrace more of themselves, accept more of themselves, and really place themselves on a completely different life track as a result of all of these experiences. So in that instance, I saw more of what we would typically call extreme, from our cultural standpoint, and how all of that led to something more, that, a sense of courage, a sense of inner strength, a sense of, deeper grace, deeper dignity. In that chaos, they found something that they hadn't found prior to that. So taking that kind of understanding, I've realized, both from my life and then those around me and life in general, is that even though the illusions of the experiences might be very chaotic, in our life or those around us, there is the ability, the choice to be grateful, because out of this chaotic experience or challenging experience or difficult experience can come something extraordinary. And of course, wouldn't we all be very grateful for something extraordinary to blossom out of something that we never expected? Mm-hmm. The key is being grateful during those times as it's unfolding, and that's where bringing more gratitude, opening our heart, as I started out saying, gratitude is literally opening our heart to embrace all that is, rather than closing our heart and judging things as somehow greater or lesser than what we think they should be, which is, again, belief systems, traditions, rituals, suggestions from others. I mean, we kind of say this all the time. It is to take this outward focus and bring it inward, where gratitude already resides. The cells are simply grateful to be a part of our collective consciousness. I'm sure they are just diligently in there, keeping us healthy, and sane so that we can walk about and have all these experiences. Nature is quite grateful to us too especially when we are very grateful for nature. When we treat nature with dignity and grace, we, experience the dignity and grace of nature. Gratitude and appreciation is something that's so much more tangibly real in our ability to apply it and allow it to expand, because I think we have, as I said early on, already examples. Sometimes gratitude is even easier than forgiveness, because we may be so at odds with something that forgiveness is, a more difficult step to take. Gratitude is oftentimes the step that we can take that leads to greater forgiveness. And of course, like any of these things we're talking about, they're all interchangeable. But we're looking at them from facets, as aspects, so that we can better understand them, so that we can actually bring this whole embodiment of unconditional love into greater realization in our world.
So you've talked about gratitude in the area of healing, and also in giving strength, and also in helping others as well. So when you hear about the power of gratitude, then it can have some very great effects in different ways. Just how would you relate this then to unconditional love directly?
Well, in this instance, I part of the perhaps the limitation or the downside to the gratitude that we do experience already, as we were saying, that this is a place that we already have experiences, is that because we are outward focused, generally speaking, we tend to be grateful for all the good things in our life. And that tends to be even further expanded to the material things. And the material being, the material things that are in our direct life, and also the relationships, friendships. We're grateful for friends, we're grateful for family, we're grateful for, our jobs, and all of that is truly a wonderful expansion, in ourselves and those around us. It's such a precious place to be in gratitude for those things. The challenge we face, and where we tend to be conditional, is that when things don't go our way, we tend to get very frustrated, very angry, very reactionary, very upset with life, the universe, and everything. When our body begins to fail us in some way, we get very upset with our bodies. We get very challenged with the physical infirmities. When our relationships go sour, we get very upset with, the other people. When we have difficulties in family, these are all things where gratitude just completely vanishes in these instances. Because what has happened is we've become very conditioned and conditional and limited in our view. And having this discussion just prior to this, talking about these challenging moments, that there's beauty, growth, evolution, understanding, wisdom, strength, courage. All of these things will eventually come out of the difficult times too. So if we can approach these difficult moments, challenging moments, things that we tend to normally resist, as not being the type of thing that we can be grateful for, and actually start to become grateful for those instances, now we've just introduced an element of unconditional love that wasn't there before. In other words, we're saying I'm bringing love via gratitude, the expression of gratitude, into something that we had just previously placed a limit on. And again, countless experiences that I've either been personally involved with or directly involved with family, friends, I've seen the quality of gratitude as a crack in a limited world, in a challenge, where allowing that moment of gratitude, being grateful for what we resist vehemently, actually allows the space for the love to come in, and literally these challenges transform in that moment. So unconditional love, being again completely intertwined with this facet of gratitude, is that it's there, it's an expansion. Of course, unconditional love is gratitude, gratitude is unconditional love. And yet as a facet, it's the gratitude piece is something we can identify with more quickly perhaps. And if we can bring those into the states that we would typically not bring them in, now we're expanding the love where love already resides, and allowing it to bring about the healing, the understanding, the wisdom, the wholeness, the inclusiveness, and understanding it outside of this linear short time frame into a much bigger picture. And all of these qualities, aspects are really begging the question to look at the bigger picture, because there's always a bigger picture going on. There are many, many lives being affected by things all the time. And when we can look with gratitude, we bring love into a situation that perhaps just a moment before had no love.
Well, I mean, that's outstanding, really, because you're saying that we can experience gratitude unconditionally, even in the face of all sorts of things that are going on in our lives that ordinarily we wouldn't think of having gratitude for. And yet there's so much to be gained from doing exactly that. So really, we could, should be experiencing gratitude practically every moment of our waking life.
Absolutely. And if we had bigger, we kind of metaphorically say, if we had a crystal ball, if we could see where these things were leading, then sometimes maybe it would be easier. And yet the idea of gratitude in a difficult situation is actually understanding that love was there before, during, and so-called after in our linear pathway, in our linear journey. So therefore, in a moment of chaos, there will come something precious and beautiful out of it. And again, a really interesting kind of symbol of this, we mentioned the house and how thoughts, feelings create the house. Well, in that same kind of symbolism, if we move from one house to the next, there is a time period where, our house is set, everything's right where we want it, we're living comfortably within our home in a certain fashion. And if we choose to now move into another home, there is a point of chaos where we have to bring everything together, box everything up, transfer it over to the new place, and then reset everything up in the new dimensions, the new parameters, and make the new place our new home. If we have gratitude, which, in cases of something like this, we often have gratitude for the home we're living in, and we have gratitude for the home we're moving into. We don't always have gratitude in the chaos in between, because there's a lot of chaos.
Certainly not.
It's a great symbol, though, of how to approach and why gratitude can work in, say, an illness, even death. I mean, we're grateful from a gratitude and appreciation standpoint, and having lived in the present moment, we're grateful for all the people around us. For example, we're having the fullness because we're always fully there. We're not there judging or expecting or wanting validation, or somehow, we tend to have lots of emotional experiences with people, and then when they pass, we tend to have lots of grieving, lots of, challenges, because we weren't fully present with them when we were around them, because we had all these emotional beliefs, attachments, rituals, traditions that we played in. When we can live more in the present moment, even something like a transition, a passing, a death, we can be in a state of gratitude and appreciation. We can be so grateful and so appreciative that we have the time we had with that individual. And we're appreciating the fact that they're on their next version of a journey. So we're not expecting them to be there for us to give us something that we're trying to, recoup somehow in our lives. We're just simply grateful and appreciative. All of these types of things, the difficult moments, when we have an illness or something, if we look at it from the standpoint that this too shall pass, and this too shall cause us to better understand ourselves, that is a sense of gratitude. And bringing gratitude in the difficult times, takes a little more courage, a little more strength. Well, voila, now we've just created more courage and more strength in ourselves. We found parts of ourselves that we didn't know we had when everything seems to be going hunky-dory, when everything seems to be going, the way we hope it to go. So when we build gratitude in our lives, we then also have a tendency to be not only grateful for the people around us, we're grateful for the things around us. We tend to take better care of ourselves because we're grateful for these trillions of cells doing their thing. When we're grateful for ourselves, we tend to be grateful for the things around us, which means we tend to take better care of the things around us because we're grateful for them. When we are grateful for ourselves, we're more grateful for the people and friends and family around us You know, when we're grateful for that, we're more grateful for living in the community we live in and the nation we live in. You know, gratitude just keeps expanding. Then we're very grateful for this beautiful planet that is one of billions. You know, gratitude just keeps expressing itself, especially when we don't get in the way and try to judge what's worthy of our gratitude, what's worthy of our appreciation. When you can be grateful and appreciative for all of it, it expands from within us and radiates out. That's love in action.
Very nice. All right. Thank you, Harold. Thanks very much.
Pleasure.